you are. Welcome to Frank On Camnet. Where are you in the rest of the world? Zambians, African, Europe, the States. Good evening and welcome. South Africa is reeling with power cuts, so we're not alone. We're going through the same situation, but not as worse as South Africa. So we're spending some time tonight looking at the causes of the outages and where does ZESCO go from here. My guest this evening is Dr. John KUNDA, who is Senior Corporate Affairs Manager at ZESCO. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
I was just talking to you before the program. I was telling you about my stress, the stress I've been facing for the last 51 years of my media life. You're the face of ZESCO. And sometimes it's wonderful, when you're transmitting good news. But when you're transmitting bad news, you really go through stress. Could I learn from you how you manage this stress?
No, thank you very much for having me. First and foremost, ZESCO Limited is a people's company. We are there to provide a service to the general public. And basically, we are meeting the needs of the country by powering industry, social services. There will be no water utility company, without ZESCO. We are also powering hospitals, and clinics. That's very noble, and I think it's dignified work.
Right.
And for me, forming the nerve center of the electricity supply industry for this country gives me joy.
Yeah.
There are moments when it's difficult, but because it is engineering, normally we know the problems.
Yeah.
And when you know a problem, I think it's easier to deal with it. And I'm sure we'll be able to have an opportunity to discuss some of the challenges that we've been having. Unlike spiritual matters, only the pastor probably is the one who was gifted in discernment and understands the problem. With engineering, it's physical, empirical material that you can touch and showcase. So I always tell my team, we tell the people the truth, even if it's painful. We must always tell them the truth. And if we're going to switch off power in a particular area, let's tell the people. And it's a fact. So you can't do anything about it. You can't manipulate a fact. So that helps to handle stress in a way. And I differentiate between work, that this is not personal. This is doing the right thing for the country. And where things are failing, we have an obligation to get back to our people and to explain to them.
Has your Christian background helped you to remain calm in an industry, really, like we've said, which can break you?
Yes, and God Himself gives us the grace. He says, my grace is sufficient for you. I always find that first and foremost, we are anointed and appointed to be stewards of God's created order. So everything that we do in public service must be about God. The work that we do should be about God. It's not about me. It's about the public good. Meaning taking care of the sum total of the resources in a country so that everyone benefits from it. So that mandate is a divine mandate that we are given by God. When God says, go and take dominion, it's basically saying, I give you authority to act on my behalf for the good of everybody within the social aggregate. So for me, we must take joy, and when we report to our offices in the morning, we must do it as if it is done unto the Lord. I think that's the most beautiful thing to do. It's a mission.
Brilliant. So let's talk about these prolonged, power failures.
Yes.
Really, how critical is this?
Bring it on.
How critical is this, and is it a coincidence that it's happening during the rainy season?
Okay, thank you very much. It's a beautiful question, and I've received a number of queries from people in different parts of the country. We have to be honest. We are not where we were last year. We are in a far much better place than we were. We have been generating good power, and we've been meeting the needs of the country, and we continue to do so. The last 13 days haven't been good days.
Okay.
First, 13 days ago, we lost one machine at Kafue Gorge Upper. This machine malfunctioned because one of the bearings was overheating. So our engineers, in their wisdom, decided to take it out in order to maintain, to prevent a bigger problem. So that machine was under repair, and as of yesterday, they completed the works.
Yeah.
They are testing the machines, and we are hoping that tomorrow it will be synchronized into the national grid. Then, as if not enough, within the same period, of course, our friends at Mamba Collieries, they give us 130. They give us 2 machines, each of 130 megawatts. Also, took out 1 machine for annual maintenance. So 2 machines were out. That gave us a deficit of about 70 megawatts, which prompted us to go into load management in the evenings between 18:30 and 21 hours. They say problems come in threes.
Right.
Then we had a storm on Wednesday last. That particular storm appeared to be short-lived, but it was big enough to cause havoc. I'll illustrate. In Kabwe, about 150 houses lost their rooftops.
Yeah.
The roofs were blown off, you know, and some of those landed on our network.
Wow.
It was the same here in Lusaka along Ibex Hill. We had also a similar challenge where trees were uprooted and collapsed on our network, bringing down about 5 poles in a row, leading into a short circuit that also effectively bent some of our substations. A similar scenario occurred in Ingwerere, affecting Zambezi Road, parts of Ngombe, and parts of Roma and Kalundu. But also you had Makeni, where a number of events occurred, branches falling off and disturbing our network. These things have happened. And then on Saturday, we had the big one.
Yeah.
On Saturday, at exactly 07:25, we declared a black start. And what transpired is that for some reason, we received 600 megawatt surge from the interconnector that connects ZESA, which is the the power utility in Zimbabwe, to the ZESCO. Pushed in about 600 megawatts, which was undesired, and we didn't expect it. So our machines and our Zambian interconnected power system entered into a self-protective mode. Because the moment it read 600 megawatts, in order to maintain equilibrium of energy in the system, it tripped 3 machines in Zambia.
Right.
1 at Mamba and 2 at Kariba. That tripping, because it was happening within milliseconds, our colleagues on the other side realized what had transpired and quickly put back the 600 megawatts, creating an immediate deficit that led to a kind of collapse in the system. But our team restored, they declared a black start where they rebooted the system at 7:30, and within the hour, most of the places in Lusaka received the power back. And then by 13:30, the entire country was fully charged. The major bulk supply points were fully charged. But what that catastrophe had left behind was a trail of destruction, meaning that individual feeders had negative effects. For example, a fuse burning out in a number of places. So you'd find that people in one area, the entire area would have power, but maybe 5 houses do not have power. Maybe because there was a phase failure. Right here in Lusaka, in Avondale, we just managed to restore one place after 6 days near Acacia Avenue there. And the problem was the cable fault. Now the cable was about 20 kilometers and they had to start digging the cable because as they were scanning, they couldn't see a problem. So for 6 days, those families did not have power. And I really sympathize with a number of families here in Lusaka, Kabwe, Ndola, and other places that might have experienced this. And, they could have lost maybe, some of their relish in their home. It's sad, but it was a natural occurrence. and you don't plan for outliers like a storm. But we know that our system is designed to be resilient, and we hope that we won't have a recurrence of storms.
Brilliant. You know, if you were not a Christian, you would have cursed number 13.
Yeah, but we are men and women of God.
Absolutely.
So we believe that natural phenomenon can occur. And it's how we respond thereafter. Yeah, we do take some time in other cases, but we restored power within the shortest possible time. Yeah.
Before we talk about the impact, you know, financially on the company and business, outlets, you've mentioned pause, falling. From a layman's in a point of view, Dr. Kunda.
Yes.
Wouldn't you be opting for more underground, cables as against to too many, poles, which easily
systems?
Yeah, which easily fall.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because the families here in Lusaka who were affected by the underground cable are saying, no, please, why don't you put overhead lines?
Yeah.
So
it's a catch-22 situation.
But true, underground cables are desirable. They are quite stable. They are resilient. And they are the most preferred, I think, because they give you much more consistency and stability.
Yeah.
They have their own problems. They are very expensive. At the same time, they are prone to vandalism here because people dig out these cables, they burn them, and then they sell the copper. Yeah. That's one major problem. And once you puncture those cables, fault detection can become a problem, but resolution is not a challenge. Yeah, but it's an option. And we have a lot of underground cables in Lusaka and other parts of the country where we have laid them, but they are prone to vandalism. They are quite very stable. The overhead lines using poles are properly designed, using proper civil engineering techniques, depending on the soil formation. Normally it is 1/6 of the pole that is sunk into the ground, and it is determined by engineering standard that to be sufficient. But suffice it to say, if nature can uproot a tree, in its natural condition with proper stems, and it's uprooted and then it lands on our network may not be as resilient, because we don't. Extreme weather conditions can affect anyone, even in the developed world. But I hear the argument about having a balance of underground cables or overhead systems that are much more robust and resilient. We also advise members of the public, this infrastructure is their infrastructure. They shouldn't be digging and building along our infrastructure, along the pole. So you find that people have dug a ditch right next to the pole, further weakening the alignment of the pole. So we have to work together. You find a stay wire, someone is building a fence and makes sure and engrosses the stay wire in the fence. But we are in a much better place as a country in terms of generation capacity. I'll just give you an example. Our installed capacity countrywide is about 3,644 megawatts. Of that, ZESCO's installed capacity is 2,657 megawatts. Now, when you look at the numbers, what this country needs at peak is 2,410 megawatts. So our demand measured against installed capacity, we are okay. And with the anticipation of the 3 additional machines at KGL, we should be, as we're moving forward, far much stable in terms of power supply to the country.
What has been the impact, financially from all these disruptions?
As usual, these disruptions affect our cash flow. And I tell our customers that it is not in the interest of ZESCO Limited to switch you off. Because
you want money.
Ambassador Mutwira, when you are off,
you're losing money.
We are losing money. When this church, is off, they are losing money. When customers are off, they are losing money. It is counterintuitive to run a business whilst withholding a product. It's like you want to sell your maize, but you want to store it at the same time. No. We're in the business of selling power. When we switch off people deliberately, it's because the undertaking that we have planned is important. It has to be done. I'll give you an example. The Lusaka Transmission, Distribution and Rehabilitation Project, funded by the European Investment Bank and the World Bank, is a big project. This project is meant to upgrade the infrastructure in Lusaka. The substations in Lusaka are small. Most of them are old and dilapidated. So are the networks in Lusaka. So what we have done, effectively, is to uproot the entire system and rebuild it. So you'll find that we send out notices, there will be, maintenance works, we are stringing a line, we are upgrading a system. It's because we can't work on a live system. We have to switch off people. You can't work on a live system. People were asking me, but can you promise that there will be no outages? I said, I can't give you that promise because there will be scheduled maintenance. People are likely to vandalize our infrastructure, and there may be unplanned, outages. So that is likely to occur. Now, your question is on the impact on business. We've lost revenue. As a result, we are yet to compute the exact amount that has been lost during the period, but we know that we can recover because the units have not been used.
Right.
So meaning that once they are used, people will be able to buy more power. So we are okay in a way. I mean, we've lost some revenue, but I'm sure, as you have read, the mines were safe, hospitals were safe, because most of the strategic installations are prioritized in being given power to ensure that the nation's economy continues to run. So we are okay. And I think we'll continue supplying power to our people because that is our mandate. Generate, distribute, transmit that power so that it spurs economic growth in the country.
You talked about the effects from the rains. We're in the rainy season now. What are you telling us, as consumers? Is this, we're going to live with this? Are you as ZESCO in a hopeless situation, and we must accept as consumers that once the rainy season sets in, anything can happen?
Not exactly. The standard is that there will be stability of power supply and consistency. What happens at the beginning of the rainy season, just at the beginning, the first month or so, weeks actually, of the rainy season, is that during the dry season, carbon builds up, especially in the joints of our network, the overhead networks. There are winds, it's dry, there's dust. So the friction causes what they call carbon. And when it rains, the first rains, normally, you get sparks on the network. So people will be telling, there were sparks on this. There are sparks here. They are danger cause. Normally, the reason that happens is known. Sparks will be caused by the carbon that builds as a result of the friction on the network. But once that is washed away after the first 2 or 3 rains, the system stabilizes. We cannot plan for heavy storms. I hope we don't get serious storms that will be damaging people's property, infrastructure, and they won't be damaging our infrastructure. But normally, normal rainfall shouldn't be a problem. There will be cases of individual faults resulting from maybe sparks and a cable that is torn, and cut. That may happen. We do not rule out such occurrences. But no, people should not be bracing for the worst. There is stability even in rainfall times.
Let me ask you,
be able to enjoy the rains, and there will be power.
Let me ask a very basic economic question. Here, the people are selling generators and other facilities are really making money. Right now, is it something that, I know you're overstretched? You generate, you distribute. People have talked about you unbundling, whatever. What I'm trying to say is, have you thought of maybe ZESCO can go into selling generators, inverters at an economic price that can benefit your consumers?
A beautiful angle. I mean, we have a lot of private sector players out there. Already we are dealing with electricity that is heavily subsidized.
Absolutely.
We're dealing with capital contributions that are heavily subsidized. When people are paying 3,000 kwacha, we have to borrow 7,000 kwacha for them. It's crazy. For a capital contribution. When power, the cost is above 10 cents, and we're selling it at 3 cents. I think we would want to leave space also for the private sector to venture into generators. We ourselves as ZESCO Limited are moving away from generators, gensets. I mean, we have diesel propelled power in certain parts like Shangombo we did have, as well as in somewhere in the Eastern Province where we had. But now with the Lusiwasi hydropower plant, and the Pensulo, Musolo line, Eastern Province will be powered from Lusiwasi upper, which we just completed at 15 megawatts. The entire Northwestern Province, since independence, is now connected to the national grid for the first time since independence, at about $300 million. Lufunsa and the Luangwa is now connected to the national grid at 81 million US dollars, 150 kilometers since independence. So we're moving away from gensets because they are very expensive. We are growing our generation capacity, but the other things we're doing is that we're investing in solar. Already we have about 84 megawatts that is being injected in the national grid from solar PVC. At the same time, we are investing in wind energy, you know, because we feel that having a rich energy mix is going to complement the system, you know, to be able to mitigate against adverse weather shifts in the event that you have a drought. But we'll leave the business of selling gensets and gas probably to our friends in the private sector so that they can come in the space. But also the market is open. Anyone is free to generate power, to transmit it and to distribute. But people aren't willing to come into the space because they feel that there is no money to be made.
Absolutely. You've talked about some, you know, successes. You've talked about Northwestern, you know, now, which is powered, you know, for the first time since independence.
Correct.
You've talked about other successes. Kariba is a success story. You know, Fuel Lower is a success story.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I want you to reconcile with two issues here. We've talked about the success stories. Your company is heavily indebted.
Yes, we have debt. Yes.
So I want you to reconcile the two, and also reconcile statements by people, statement by very learned economists that yours is a very badly managed in a company in this country. In fact, it's in the world. It's in the world.
Excellent. So let's break it down.
Deal with the three issues.
I'll deal with the three issues. We'll start first with the successes. What have we done? The last major investments in the electricity supply industry were in 1977. Right? The next one was 2014. So when we started investing, you're looking at Kafue Gorge Lower, it's at 2.3 billion. You borrow 2.3 billion, not for consumption. You borrow in order to invest in power generation, 750 megawatts. As you sell that power, because already two machines are running, and the proceeds from the two machines has already started servicing the loan. That's the agreement. You borrow in order to invest, and the investment itself is modeled in such a way that it starts paying the loan itself. That's the Nkongole we're talking about. That's the debt we're talking about. ITPC, Iteshteje Hydropower Station, 120 megawatts, is the PPP with Tata of India. Beautiful arrangement. We are running and we are doing well. I'll give you another success story, Ambassador. Look at Kariba North Bank extension. We borrowed money, invested in the extension. The same plant paid off the loan and is now profit making. As we speak today, on our books, it is making money. That model is the model we are applying to Kafue Gorge Lower. So when people are screaming that ZESCO has a lot of debt, they shouldn't forget that for you to build infrastructure of the magnitude of Kafue Gorge Lower, you do not have money in your account that is sitting, which you simply get and invest. Successful businesses borrow. The American government just went to the Senate. They've been discussing tripling the debt ceiling. You know, debt is not an issue. It's your ability to service.
As long as you invest it properly.
Invest it properly, meaning your ability to service. 3.5 billion for ZESCO compared to the balance sheet shouldn't be a screaming number. But our ability to service it is what we need to be discussing. I'll give you another example. Yes, ZESCO has debt. We owe. It's true. We owe independent power producers in excess of what, you know, millions of dollars. Right? Mamba Collieries is in about $400 million. $400 million. Where is this debt coming from? It's coming from an arrangement where ZESCO is put in this arrangement where they are buying power at 12.8 cents or $0.12 from this particular private company, and then ZESCO reduces the price to 3 cents. So
which doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make business sense. No one would do it, not even my mother who sells at the market.
So why are you doing it?
So I'll explain. We are in this relationship where initially when the agreement was made, right? This is a bigger conversation that involves macro institutions. When this conversation was had, it was envisioned that the tariff was going to migrate and become cost reflective. That every year there would be applications that would be inbuilt in the structure, and then the tariff would become cost reflective. But you and I know that there would be an application for an increase and then a reversal.
Yeah.
Another application, a reversal. So ZESCO's tariff remained stagnant and has never grown as predicted in the model that was used when contracting those particular relationships. So that debt is coming from the difference between what ZESCO is using to buy the power and the selling price. That difference is sitting on our books as debt.
Has the government been squeezing you? Because basically what you're doing is you're making political decisions. Surely, you buying it at 12 cents
and
selling it at 3.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
I'm sorry to say that.
But as ZESCO Limited, we are not at liberty to increase nor reduce the tariff. We don't. We apply to the ERB. Right? Even the capital contribution, if you apply to have power at your home, we subsidize that connection to the ratio 3:7. So, Ambassador, if we charge you 30,000 kwacha, we as ZESCO Limited have to go to the capital markets to borrow in order to connect you and pay interest on your behalf.
Who is going to be courageous enough to charge cost-reflective tariffs? And can you convince the consumer that, if I'm going to buy it at 12, I need to sell it at 15 or 20? What would be the implications? I know the ministers talked about it. The president, they're both laying the ground. How practical and quickly can this be?
It is practical. It depends on how the model is going to be worked out. What a cost-reflective tariff is going to look like will depend on the cost of service study that is currently being undertaken by ERB, and we are hoping that that will become the benchmark. The big question that you should be looking at is, how can we attract private sector investments in the electricity supply industry? If Mr. Banda wants to start a business in electricity, how can you convince him to come and he will be confident that he will make some money? Because in the current state of affairs,
it's impossible.
You can't convince anybody to come and invest because they know there is no money to be made. So that's a problem. And for us, so I was talking about some of the achievements and some of the issues that have resulted. The next issue that you had discussed, apart from the debt that we are in, so I explained the IPPs. I explained the debt comes that we borrow in order to invest, not for consumption, and then we are owed money as well. Right? Water utility companies owe us money.
Why are you not collecting?
I've got $3 million.
Why are you not collecting?
Ambassador, we have gone ahead to demand for payment, and in some cases we've entered payment plans, and some of these companies will still default. Tell me honestly, are you going to wake up one day and switch off all the water utility companies in Zambia? Because that would be a recipe for danger, waterborne and water-related diseases.
What is the answer? Legal recourse? How are you going to come out?
It's the same. We just need to find a system that works. We'll continue engaging with them. We are engaging government so that we find a workable solution that is mutually beneficial, so that the relationship is not parasitic on ZESCO, that the relationship must be mutually beneficial. Even if ZESCO is a parastatal, it must also recover the money in order to reinvest and give a better service. It's the same with hospitals. Do we wake up today and switch off UTH?
No.
Or do we switch off Levi Mwanawasa Hospital?
No.
You can't do that. How do you enforce? Yeah, we just released the demand notice for KCM, and you saw the uproar of people saying, but ZESCO, why are you trying to switch off KCM? ZESCO, why Mwazina? I'm saying I'm providing a service. It's costing me a lot of money to give you 400 megawatts, which is double what Malawi needs.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to the mine, and if the mine is not paying me, I'm having a deficit. And you are surprised that I am in debt when all these big players are not paying me.
Yeah.
You put FQM, KCM, and the other mine together, they are owing us in excess of $800 million. So we need to have a conversation around ZESCO that is objective, so that our people understand that we know the problems of ZESCO as a ZESCO team. We know the problems and we know the solutions. But we need to create an environment that works for everybody.
Before you talk about the allegations of bad management, maybe perhaps something related to that. You've talked about these huge, expensive, projects.
Yes.
Some people may be saying, look, yes, they're good, but in this situation, couldn't you have maybe started investing in alternative energy, which may not be as expensive as hydro?
Hydro is not very expensive compared to the others.
But the infrastructure,
the infrastructure,
yes.
But it's much more robust, you know, and evidence is there that it's not as expensive as thermal, for example, nuclear energy. So it's robust, but it's susceptible to climatic changes, right? So what are we doing? We are investing in solar energy. Already, we are injecting about 84 megawatts of solar into the national grid. Bangweulu, solar, as well as Ngonye. We are investing in solar, a rich mix of energy, also exploring the possibility of wind energy. We have created a department totally focused on renewable energies. That shows commitment and goodwill in terms of futuristic investment, sustainable investment. The other thing we need to look at is the fact that apart from the solar energy and other renewables that we are pumping in, we are trying to mitigate the hydrological risk of the southern province, which is prone to droughts, and that's where most of our major hydro power stations are. We are shifting also to the northern part of the country with the small hydros.
Should have been done long back.
We have Musonda Falls, we have Lusiwasi Upper, we have Shiwangandu, and we have Lunzua at 14.8 megawatts. So these are going to contribute. But also the envisioned Luapula Hydro Power Station on Luapula River, which is perennially rich in terms of water resource. So we're in a good place. The other thing we've done is cascaded generation. Using the same water to generate power at 3 different points. Kafue Gorge Lower, Kafue Gorge Upper. So you have 750 megawatts, 990 megawatts, and 120 megawatts at Iteshteji. So even if you have reduced water inflows, you are effectively producing more power at 3 different points. It's the same thing we are doing at Lusiwasi. So we have Lusiwasi Upper and Lusiwasi Lower, one 12 megawatts, the other one is at 15 megawatts. And the third one, which is coming, is 86 megawatts. So cascaded generation is also another technology that is being used to mitigate some of the challenges that are being experienced.
I'll still be coming to the bad manager issue. Climate change.
Climate change.
You buying, energy from Mamba. I'm sorry to say this, Mamba. Please don't.
It's a fact.
It's a fact.
It's not a crime.
Contributing.
Yes, they also contribute
to climate change. Which is a very big issue right now.
Yes.
Do we see ZESCO down the line slowly divorcing from coal?
What we are looking at more renewable energy is the future. Right? Hydro is much more robust. We know that. It's quite dynamic. It's very robust. I like how the MD says it. Very robust, very dynamic. He's very passionate about investments, in infrastructure, as well as we're not just looking at today. We are looking at years to come. By the year 2025, our vision is to become the hub of electricity trading in the region. That is our goal. That's our focus. And we are on the way to achieving that particular vision. So, yes, we see ourselves much more concentrating on sustainable solutions to the energy problems.
South Africa is going through a worse situation than us. Can you take...
We're much better, right?
Yes, I know that. You know,
because economy.
Yes, I watch a lot.
Nigeria's big economy.
There are some consumers who haven't had electricity for over a year.
It's true, yes. Yeah.
They're short of electricity. Any way ZESCO can take advantage and up export of energy into South Africa?
As we continue to increase our capacity, as I've told you, our installed capacity compared to our demand at peak, which is 2,410 megawatts, simply means that when we have excess power, we are preparing ourselves to trade with our neighbors, including esco. So we should be able to be a hub where we can sell electricity to the Northern Gate, you know, Angola, Namibia, you know, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and South Africa. We are members of the Southern African Power Pool. And just to give you an example of how confident we are that we are going to become the hub of electricity trading in the region by the year 2025, we have put in place interconnectors, you know, towards the interconnector that connects us to Tanzania and, you know, Kenya. And also we are looking at signing a memorandum of understanding with Angola so that we can give them power. We've already signed that. We have Namibia, we have Botswana, Zizawona, we have Zimbabwe. These interconnectors are positioning us to be able to sell excess power to this region.
I'll still delay the issue of
the good of the country.
You know,
mismanaged company.
I'll delay.
Not a problem.
You know that. Let me go back to cost-reflective. Tariffs. Do we have an idea when this can kick in? Because it has to kick in.
The cost of service study should be coming out. We are hopeful in the next month or two. They should finalize it. I think they're in the last stages of that particular study. So once they give us the cost of service study, immediately we are throwing in an application. But so it's contingent upon that cost of service study.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Because we've been applying, but we'd like to have a scenario where it's not just about ZESCO. This is about any player who is in the electricity supply industry. This must be of their interest. This is about attracting private sector players in the industry. So it's not just about ZESCO. People must think beyond ZESCO.
Right.
There are mutuvilas out there who would like to invest in electricity. So they would like to come in an environment where they are sure that they'll make money. Just like everyone is rushing to Kasenseri.
Absolutely.
To look for gold.
To look for gold, yeah. Let's talk about, let me take advantage and talk about, some of the thorny issues that have been there.
So the mismanagement won't talk about
No, we will. Okay. I'm actually coming there
not a problem.
After you clear this,
not a problem.
This thorny issue of legacy relationship between Mamba and CEC, which has been going on, for some time. What is the situation right now? What led to those differences?
We don't have the full...
Was it the normal business differences?
It's normal business relationships. I think ZESCO Limited is only advocating for a mutually beneficial relationship.
Right.
There was a bulk supply agreement that was had for quite some years, about 20 years or so.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. It expired on 31st March last year. In order to renew that relationship, we engaged and had a conversation and a back and forth. And we almost agreed, but then there was a stormate at some point. We are ready for that conversation. So for us, it's a purely business relationship. And I'm sure our partners would like to look forward to agreeing on something that is mutually beneficial. Not just one-sided. It must be beneficial for the parastatal as well as for the private sector.
You have defended your company very well, and as usual, a very good defender. For a good defender accused by one attacker, by the name of Professor Oliver Sasa.
Correct, yes.
Couldn't this defender and this attacker sit together and you're a very good defender, I keep on saying.
Thank you.
And say,
that, yeah.
Professor, this is the way we've been playing the game.
Can you give us the alternative?
Yeah, I mean, really, because I've been in this business for over 50 years. Communication is critical.
Absolutely, yes.
Very critical. Couldn't you have sat the good professor and said, Professor, this is the situation?
Very soon we are engaging civil society,
yeah,
and other academia and other institutions so that we can sit in one room.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to give them one director, Patrick Mwila, one Sarah Muyoni,
yeah,
and you know, the young fellows of the Mutintas, Lunda, and others, and say, let's have a conversation in one room.
Yeah.
And our conversation is, where are we coming from?
Right.
Where are we as a company?
And where are we going?
And what do we think are the keys to opening up the profitability of this company? Because we know what needs to be done. And we'll have the professor there, and we'll give him and say, Professor, instead of speaking in general terms, which they call the fallacy of generalization, let's narrow it down to specifics. What are the, he's an economist, so he understands. What are the variables that have continued to put ZESCO where it is today? What are the variables, both internal and external, that we need to work on in order for ZESCO to be profitable? Let's have that conversation so that it's an objective, intelligent, and emotionless conversation. Because economics is about numbers. Numbers don't lie. I'll give you this one fact. Our finance director is very clear. He says, as we continue to put in place these variables and the measures that we are proposing, within a year, ZESCO will be moving from red to black, from black to green. It's doable. So the plan is in place. Let's have that conversation. We are still discussing internally on the mode of engagement of civil society, business entities, so that we can have this conversation, so that people need to know where we're coming from, where we are, and where we've planned to be, all variables being put in order.
Every time I've talked to you, you have defended the CEO of the company, a CEO who has been accused of doing unbusiness-like, things.
Yeah. Innuendo and rumors.
Why do you continue to defend them? Is it just because it's a job to defend your boss?
No. I am a man of God. I mean, I believe in truth.
Yeah.
I don't believe in talking negatively about people I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about somebody's life, insult them, and criticize their lifestyle when I don't even know them. I don't know where they live. But what I see in social media is this slander and hatred for people that we don't know. Right? So we base our commentary on pure rumors and malice. Why do I defend him? That's the question you asked me.
Yeah.
And I'll be very objective. Is it true that one Victor Mundende is responsible for having Kafue Gorge Lower hydropower station? Yes, it is true. Right? Why should I condemn him for that? Is it true that one Victor Mundende, as CEO of ZESCO Limited, ensured that the entire northwestern province is connected to the national grid? Is it true? Yes, it is true. Is it true that Musonda Falls is where it is today from 5 megawatts, 10 megawatts, because the CEO made certain good decisions? Yes, it is true. Is it true that we have Itejteji hydropower station? Is it true that we have Lunzua hydropower station? Is it true that we have Shuangandu? The things that have happened in the tenure of his office are there to be seen by anybody who is objective. I asked critics, I said, tell me one mismanagement factor. They will say, no, politics. I said, let's talk about numbers and infrastructure development, which is visible, is empirical. Can we attribute it to his leadership? Yes.
Great.
So why should I be condemning somebody who has sustained a ship afloat amid so many problems?
In saying so, what are you saying to those people who are saying, yes, the projects are there, but they were overpriced, maybe some people benefited from that? And why am I saying this? The Minister of Infrastructure has been talking about that these projects were overpriced. You're a man of numbers. So what are you telling those people, Dr. Kunda, who are saying, yes, the projects are there, but the country could have done better and saved some money on these projects?
But you can only tell, because again we're dealing with numbers. Projects are quantifiable. You can only tell through an audit process. The way the project was priced, the way disbursements work in projects. I've worked on big infrastructure projects, $355 million US, Millennium Challenge project. There is a way that contracts are run. That money doesn't sit in the pockets of individuals. Neither does that money sit, and that project is run by the Kafue company that is created, a subsidiary of ZESCO, that's running the project. So it's independent, with the project manager, independent, with their own books. So it's important that when we criticize people and we say, no, that project was is estimated at 2.3 billion. When you're saying it is overpriced, what's your benchmark? Do you understand how the bill of quantities was arrived at? What were the numbers? So let's deal with what we know. What we don't know, or if there's suspicion of a problem or criminality, then audits come in, right? And investigations come in. That's a different conversation altogether. But as it stands, one cannot just look at a project and say that is overpriced. You are not involved in the design. You are not involved in coming up with a bill of quantities. You are not, you are not part of the financing model, because this man and the financiers are there.
Absolutely.
It's not like they are ghosts. They are alive. So let's deal with numbers. Let's deal with facts.
Great.
So that when we criticize people, we must criticize people based on empirical evidence, not innuendo, not rumors.
This is Frank On Camnet. My guest, Dr. John Kunda, Senior Corporate Affairs Manager at ZESCO. We're looking at issues pertaining to the operations, the status of ZESCO. We take a break. When we come back, IMF could be coming to Zambia in terms of a package. We've seen in some countries that when IMF comes in, austerity measures kick in, and some of the quasi institutions are affected in terms of restructuring. What is the situation vis-a-vis ZESCO? What is the likely situation? We'll be back in a very shortly. Don't move.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
This is Frank On Camnet, and I'm sure if you're watching us, then you've got power, and we pray that the power is going to continue. We're looking at various issues pertaining to the status of ZESCO with Dr. John Kunda, Senior Corporate Affairs Manager at ZESCO. Before we went on break, I made reference to IMF. What are your thoughts? Have you heard anything that when it kicks in, there've been all these rumors, IMF will come here, restructure, ZESCO?
I've heard the stories, but I'm not competent to discuss, the IMF policy macro frameworks that we'll be dealing with. All I know is that probably it's needed for balance of payments. We do need that injection probably into the economy of this country. But the one thing I've heard also about restructuring. Now, let me make it very clear. Already, you know, in the last 2 years or so, ZESCO has been working on a robust turnaround strategy plan. And that plan has been shared, including with the Minister of Energy and other key stakeholders. And we continue to socialize it. So, I've heard about, the possibility of restructuring, but what it concerns, what the issue is about restructuring, you know, at the moment we don't have anything apart from making sure that what we are doing at ZESCO works and that it's for the good of the company in order for us to continue providing a service to our people. That's our mandate, and we'll continue expanding and creating efficiencies so that we provide much more stable and consistent power supply to our customers.
Why do people keep on saying the company is bloated?
Yeah.
What is the basis?
Oh, bloated.
Yeah.
I think people think ZESCO should be a small utility company, you know, confined to a particular province.
Yeah.
We are countrywide.
Yeah.
Right? As we speak, we have 6,786 employees.
Right.
In ZESCO, and we can account for all of them, so they are not ghost workers. In 2014, the labor cost proportionate to operational cost was at 46%. As we speak today, the labor cost proportionate to operational cost is 16%, meaning that we have enhanced on efficiencies and we have enhanced on optimizing labor, and we continue to put initiatives in place to optimize labor within ZESCO, so that we're much more efficient, but also without sacrificing service delivery. So, bloated, I don't know where this perception comes from, but it's this issue. I also see that envy is another element that plays a part, but I can confirm with you that, we have the right numbers that we need to deliver the service. We can optimize labor, we can do better, and we continue to meet on a weekly basis to find creative ways to optimize, you know, so that the company is much more, you know, efficient in certain issues, you know, like when we're dealing with customer service and our response rate to, you know, complaints. Sometimes our commitment is 48 hours, sometimes we go beyond 48 hours, but if a case is complicated, then it must be an outlier. But generally speaking, we can optimize labor, but where we are now, we are 16% labor cost, you know, relative to operational costs. So we are in a good place.
You talked about the fact that you welcome more investors in this sector, but right now it's a bit difficult to make money if you just come in as a private investor. How can this be addressed so that we bring in, you know, more players, you know, in this sector and compete with, you know, I'm sure you're productive. I'm sure you appreciate competition.
Yes, well, you will love competition.
Yeah.
Bring them on. For example, there are other players that currently who are generating power, right? We have MCL, we have Lunsemfwa, you know, we have the others who transmit like Northwestern, and we have CEC, they also generate power. We would like them also to sell to you as a customer, right? Not everyone should be selling their power to ZESCO, right? They should be able to identify a customer in Mtendere or in Kawama or in Ichoma, and then we'll transport it for them and charge them for transporting or wheeling that power to their preferred customer. The market is open.
Absolutely.
The only way we are going to attract private sector investment in the sector is when all the conditions available are propitious for business. That whoever is going to invest must make money. If there is no one making money, and if people carry out an assessment and they realize that if they enter this market, they won't make money, they won't even break even, they won't come in.
Yeah. Tell me, you know, without sounding like the previous government did not provide a conducive environment, but are you in a better space now with the new government because it's easier to discuss with a new government? Is this...
I'm speaking from a parastatal perspective.
I know, but...
Yes, correct.
Yeah, but you need to deal with it.
Exactly, and what I'm saying is that hearing the president and the minister speak. The maiden speech of the president was very clear. Structural reforms, financial reforms, as well as cost-reflective tariff. Meaning he would like to, what they exactly said is that they would like to attract private sector investment in the electricity supply industry. That's good news for any player. It's not just for ZESCO. It's for anyone who is investing in electricity, generation, transmission, and distribution. Will be happy to have policies and an environment that is good for business.
Okay.
That is a welcome gesture. So we've heard these pronouncements, and they are documented pronouncements, which I think are prophetic enough to create a favorable environment for business.
You talked about the need to have this endeavor with NGOs especially. What would you be telling them, you know, to transmit to us? And let me say, what would you like to transmit, you know, to the consumers? Because I know what the consumer needs from you to provide an efficient and good, you know, service. What would you be telling them? What do you expect from these, you know, consumers? And what is the future of this gigantic institution?
As I said, the future is bright. We are looking at a year or so we've been black, you know, from where we are in red, move to black, then move into green. So putting the variables that we are engaging on together and attending to those factors is going to help this company grow. And we've made it very clear. Why are we engaging our stakeholders? Stakeholders have an influence. Like you mentioned, our economists, you know, our civil society players, academia. It is important for these people to know the truth. The truth in numbers. The truth as it is. You know, where ZESCO is in terms of generation, where it is in terms of transmission, where it is in terms of business development and business management. If these people understand when they make comments on issues surrounding the company or the industry in general, they will be speaking from an informed perspective. And as opinion leaders, when they set the agenda and contribute to that public agenda, they will be doing it from a point of being well informed. That's the reason why I would like to engage with them on a one-to-one basis to continue sharing our story so that they can critique, they can question and appreciate where the company is.
Related, you know, to that, we go back to where we started, you know, from, in terms of all these outages, in terms of all the technical corrections you're doing. You know, what message do you have for the consumers?
You know, the consumer is the owner of the company because it's a government entity. It's a parastatal, but the shareholders is government and the people. It is in the interest of our people to know what it takes to generate power, to transmit it, and to distribute it. Our people must know. No matter how painful that truth may be, even when we decide to subsidize, but our customers, they are our key stakeholders. They must understand what is involved in that value chain. Once they understand, then our people will be able to switch off their electricity during the day. The security lights must not be on during the day. Then our people will learn to switch off the bulb in the bathroom when they're not using it. Then they won't be leaving lights on during the day, because when they understand the value of this product, they will be our partners and they will become our advocates.
We're going to end on a Christian note, you know, knowing that you and me, we're Christians. You know, we talked about the 13 bad, you know, days. If we walk out of this studio, Dr. Kunda, and you made, you know, Jesus, what conversation would you be, you know, discussing with them, bearing these 13 days we coming, you know, from? What are you to be telling him?
First and foremost, you know, I'm very grateful that I have this beautiful life that is given by God. And Jesus has said to us, do unto others what you'd like done unto thee. You know, and he gives us a mandate, you know, to go into the world, you know, to love as we have been loved. And he says, you know, I have chosen you. You did not choose me. I chose you first. And he gives us the mission to go out and be ambassadors, you know, of God's goodness, ambassadors of the new kingdom.
Yeah.
And for me, hope is important, even when there are difficult times. Isaiah 43 verse 1 to 7 is clear. You know, even if you go through deep waters, you'll not be overwhelmed. Even if you pass through fire, you will not be burned. Why? Because I am the Lord your God. You know, I have carved you on the palms of my hands, and I love you. Those are words of assurance that comes from God. And knowing that it's not about me, it's about God, I let my life be in persona Christi.
I'm delighted.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
May the light continue to shine.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
This has been Frank on Camnet. Let me take this advantage of thanking all you wonderful people out there, including family members, including the church, including various governments I've served since KK up to now, including ZBS, ZNBC now, people who gave me employment, the late Charles Mando, the late Charles Muyamwa, who employed me, my friends who have gone by, who contributed to making who I am today, my colleagues at Capital FM Radio, which I co-own with my colleagues. A couple of months ago, I celebrated my 50 years in the media, and thank you for the good things you have been saying about me. Next month, it's another milestone, 51 years in December. I'll start slowing down, I think, next year. I'll have a conversation with God about that. Thank you so much. And I got to thank Camnet, who have given me this rare opportunity on a Christian channel. Being a son of a reverend is just amazing. And finally, like I keep on saying, do your very best and God will do the rest. On behalf of my guest, Dr. John KUNDA, Senior Corporate Affairs Manager at ZESCO. On behalf of my colleagues at Camnet, led by Isaac. On behalf of Pastor Chiluba and Mrs. Chiluba, Exec Directors of this program, I'm Frank Mutubila. God bless you and good night.